Thank you. Dear Lord, we thank you for the blessings of our country and the freedom which we enjoy. We pray for our late Queen and her family and for all those who govern in her name. Give them health and strength, wisdom and courage, so that people may carry out their duties in the best interests of the people. May the memory of our late Queen and our late dear friend and colleague Les Winwood endure as proud examples of selfless duty. Amen. I'm also proposing, in remembrance of the Queen and former Councillor Les Winwood, who we very sadly lost, just to hold a minute's silence. So if members would remain standing and have a moment of reflection. Thank you. Thank you, members. Please sit. Well, once again, good morning and welcome to this meeting of the Council. For the benefit of those who are vulnerable or otherwise anxious about becoming ill, we ask that you continue to respect the decision of those who still wish to wear a face mask. It's especially important to those listening remotely that you mute any devices. You may find it easier also to be seated when you use your microphone when you're speaking. That will change and we will go back at some stage to the traditional way of standing, but currently nobody can hear you if you stand. So if you're wearing a mask, please remove it while you're speaking. Please do not hold the microphone by the stem. They are very expensive to repair. I propose to take a 20-minute break at around 12:30 to allow those that wish to take refreshments to do so. This may obviously change if we're halfway through an agenda item or within reach of the end of the meeting, perhaps another 20 minutes and we'll be at the end of the meeting, but I will come back to members and around then and just take their view on it. So we'll move on to item 1, which is the apologies. Chief Executive.
Apologies have been received from the following councillors: Andy Boddington, Julia Buckley, Simon Harris, Nigel Lumby, Richard Marshall, Robert Tyndall. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2 is disclosable pecuniary interests. Are there any others? Sorry.
Excuse me.
Tracy Huffer. For she's ill. All right. Okay. Thank you. And hopefully she feels better soon. Are there any others? Nope. Okay. Item 2 is disclosable pecuniary interests. The chairman, I'm reading my own bit out there. I'd remind members to disclose any pecuniary and other registrable interests that's non-registrable interests that on any matter to be discussed, including an interest in their register of interests, and leave the chamber prior to that matter being discussed. So are there any to declare? Nope. So we will move on to item 3 in that case, which is the minutes of the last meeting. I'm going to move the minutes of the previous council meeting held on the 7th of July 2022 as circulated with the agenda papers, that they can be signed as a true and correct record.
I'm happy to second that proposal.
Good. Ruth, Councillor Houghton.
Thank you, Chair. Could I just check if the minutes are accurate regarding item 29, as I've still not received any response to questions that were raised. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear all of that. Please turn off any notifications that are coming through on your computers. It is very irritating when you're sat here. And if you don't know how to, there's a window over there. That's perhaps the best way for the computer to go, because I hate having to listen to it. Thank you. Okay. Sorry, can you say that again, Councillor Houghton?
Thank you, Chair. Could I check that the minutes are accurate regarding item 29
Yeah.
and the questions I raised, that I've still not received a response to those questions? Thank you.
Okay, so that's not actually a question about the validity of the minutes. It's a question about the fact that you've not had a response.
Very skillfully done.
Yeah, very skillfully done, almost. Okay, thank you. Well, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? Anybody not here for the last meeting? Nope. We'll take those then as is. We'll move on to item 4, which are announcements. To receive such communications as the Chair and the Vice Chair and the Head of Paid Service desire to lay before the Council. Obviously, you've got in 4.1 a list of myself and the Vice Chair's engagements, which have been carried out since the last meeting on the 7th of July 2022, which have been circulated. Move on to item 5, which is public questions, and in accordance with Procedure Rule 14, we'll now deal with questions from members of the public. In accordance with the revised procedural rules, the Assistant Director of Legal and Democratic Services will read out the public questions received from members of the public who are not present. The relevant portfolio holder will respond to the questions. So, first of all, is Bob Saunders here? No.
So the question from Bob Saunders is this. Further to the reply to my question on the 7th of July 2022 about the timing of pedestrian crossings in Shrewsbury Town Centre, I would like to know whether the council is legally obliged to use the timings quoted, or could the amount of time for pedestrians be increased at the expense of road traffic? As mentioned, the Green Man period is very short and creates concern for pedestrians, does nothing to encourage active travel, and seems to be primarily for the benefit of motorists. If the council is serious about active travel and net zero, this is something they should implement.
Okay, Councillor Dean Carroll, I believe you've got the answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Yes, the council is not legally obliged to use the timings that have been quoted. However, it is always good practice to follow the guidance provided for national consistency. The timings are often set to the optimum balance between pedestrian and vehicular movement, including buses and cycles, to ensure that all modes are able to move around expediently. Whilst the Green Man timings may be short, the green light for vehicles is not actually triggered until pedestrians have completed their crossing movement. The service, however, will review to ensure that this remains the case.
Thank you. We'll move on to the second question from Rachel Connolly. Is Ms. Connolly here? Tim?
Thanks, Chairman. Her question is this. Almost exactly 1 year ago to the day, I brought a petition of over 2,000 signatures to this council, asking you to involve elected members in the decision as to whether or not to close the 2 highways depots in the east of the county. Following a very confusing vote in which members asked repeatedly for clarity, a small majority voted to allow a temporary closure to go ahead whilst you conducted additional research and consulted those affected. Now that 12 months has elapsed, I am astonished that the depots remain closed. As a local town councillor for Bridgnorth, I am regularly contacted by residents with concerns about reduced highways provision since the closure of our local depot. During the floods, there were not enough sandbags available in the east of the town. During the icy weather, the school routes were insufficiently gritted, which led to a 17% increase of injuries at our local minor injuries units. And our potholes are left until dangerous because, according to the contractors, we are too far away from the depots for materials to be easily transported. All of our concerns that closing a local depot would negatively impact service delivery in Bridgnorth have been proven to be accurate? How long does the council consider temporary to be? What research has the council conducted into the sites? What consultation has the council conducted with those affected? On what date will the review into this temporary closure be brought to a satisfactory conclusion?
Thank you. Councillor Carroll.
Thank you, Chair. All of these metrics show an improvement in performance in every single one of the 16 areas analysed across the county, including all of those previously serviced from both the Bridgnorth and Hodnet depots. All concerns about winter maintenance were investigated, and each incident found to be not on a route that was on the winter maintenance schedule, and therefore would not have been gritted prior to the depot being closed. And whilst it's acknowledged that there are some delays in the repair of potholes, this is not inconsistent with the rest of the county and has considerably improved to timescales prior to the closure of the depots.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. Move on to item 6, which is the annual Treasury Report 21-22. I now invite Councillor Gwilym Butler, portfolio holder for Finance and Corporate Resources, to present the report and move the report be received and agreed. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, this is a housekeeping report under the Local Government Act and best SITFA policies which we work under. I'm very pleased to report that officers are doing an excellent job in our Treasury departments with our investments, and we are well above national benchmarking in the returns we are making available. I will put a hand in the wind, so to speak. I think we're in challenging times, and I'm sure we're going to have an interest rate rise today, and it'd be interesting to see how these reports move forward in the coming months. Very simply, Chair, this has been through Cabinet. I just move the recommendations at 3.1. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that's being seconded by Councillor Gary Burchett. Is that correct?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I second report and I reserve my right.
Okay. Councillor Heather Keir.
I also welcome the report. I think it's a really good report in many ways, and the officers are doing a wonderful job. I'd just like to make a quick comment that it's a great shame that the 51 or 52 or 53 million we spent on the shopping centres isn't also earning us interest rather than costing us money. Thank you.
Round. No other hands, so I will go back to the seconder who reserved his right. Councillor Burchett.
I move the report, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I second. I don't need to speak.
Okay. Do you have anything to say or not? All right. Okay. So I will go back to Councillor Butler.
Thank you. Heather, I note your comments, but this side of the chamber actually take a long-term view. And I think the way things are moving with Shrewsbury and how Shrewsbury has bounced back from the COVID response and the action that this council has taken in getting the Darwin Centre full has actually been a big part of that in the vibrance of the town centre. And I move the report. Thank you.
Okay. Been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We will move on to item 7, the annual assurance report of the Audit Committee to Council 21-22. I'm now going to invite Councillor Brian Williams, who chairs the Audit Committee, to present the report and move the report be received and agreed.
Thank you, Chairman. In moving this report, I'd like to take members to paragraph 14, Audit Service Staff. You will see there, it says that the key staff are James Walton and then Kerry Pilowski, the head of audit. This report was drafted early July because it went to the audit committee on the 20th of July, and events have moved on since then. And though it says here that Kerry Pilowski, whose full title is Head of Audit, Governance and Risk Management, is one of the key staff, I have to tell this council that sadly Kerry Pilowski is retiring tomorrow, and I'd like to pay tribute to her, as I've been chairman of the audit committee for many, many years, on and off, and there is no doubt that Kerry Pilowski has been one of those people you don't often come across, but is absolutely vital to the good running of this council. Head of Audit, Governance and Risk Management covers a great deal of ground in keeping the council on the right legal and formal path. And there is no doubt she has been an admirable servant of this council, and she will be sadly missed. And I simply, as her chairman for so many years, would like to take this opportunity of paying tribute to her very good service to this council. Having said that, I move the report. I'll be happy to answer any queries.
Thank you. I believe that's being seconded by Councillor Chris Schofield. Are you going to withhold your right?
Thank you, Chair. I second the report and reserve my right.
Okay. Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I totally associate myself with the comments made by the Chairman regarding our employee? As a long-time substitute and now a member of that, she has done this council well, and they are big shoes to fill. So I completely agree with what the Chairman has said about our retiring employee.
Thank you, Roger. Looking round, not seeing any other hands. So, Councillor Schofield, you reserved your right. Is there anything you wish to say?
Only echo them comments, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Williams?
Nothing further.
No. Okay. So, all those in favour, please show. Any against? Abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 8 is the alternative budget process. I now invite again Councillor Gwilym Butler, portfolio holder for finance and corporate resources, to present the report. Move that the report be received and agreed. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this was a report that went to Cabinet last week. To give members a way of background, you'll remember last year when we were trying to set the budget, there were things that were out of our control regarding local by-elections, and that the process was quite tight, especially around the consultation. And I agreed at full council when the budget was put forward that we would take that away and bring forward a dedicated timetable for the budget setting process. I did that by the method of green papers in a very transparent way that went to performance management twice, where they were accepted. And I therefore bring back the agreed process to members to accept today in recommendations 3.1 and 3.2. It is my view that this is a good starter for 10, and if we need to, we do a further review after this year's budget process to see if any tweaking needs to be done. Mr. Chairman, I move the recommendations 3.1 and 3.2. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe that's being seconded by Councillor Roy Aldcroft. Councillor Aldcroft, is that correct? And are you speaking now?
Yes, I'll formally second that and reserve my right.
Okay. I've had Councillor Julian Dean indicate he wishes to speak. Councillor Dean.
Thank you. Yes, so firstly, I think Green Group can take credit for the fact that we now have an alternative budget process, having initiated work on that last year, as we promised in the previous year. No other opposition group had actually done that for many years, but I'm sure everybody welcomes that we now have a process. And I think the process for the alternative budget is satisfactory from what I can see. I'm a little bit concerned about the consultation. We know that the consultation, people were very concerned that it was opaque and not clear last year, and the comments in the report are really interesting in those terms. And clearly this is a step forward. But I would have liked to have seen something more imaginative. There's some really interesting comments in the report from different councils. What we don't know is the scale of the budgets of those councils. You know, and we are a relatively large council, and I would have expected us to be able to do something relatively exciting with our budget consultation. In particular, it's under the survey feedback notes on page 9 of the report. It talks about providing a description of proposals and the business impact of proposals. Well, surely we should also be talking about, you know, the social impact of proposals, the impact on our communities. So that's a little bit concerning that that's missing there. But in general, I absolutely welcome this as a step forward, both in terms of how we consult the public and the opportunity for other groups to talk to officers about alternative budget proposals. Thank you.
Thank you. Can't see any other. Councillor Kerr. Almost missed the bus.
Oh, I want to miss the bus, but just to add to what my colleague has said, I welcome the proposals. I think it's good to have a budget process as set out. My only concern is that 31st of October is a very early time for group leaders to produce alternative budget proposals. Clearly, there'll be a lot of financial information won't be available after that date as we get towards the year end. So as long as it's understood that although we can do our best to try and meet that expectation, we will need some help and assistance from the finance team. I'm sure that will be forthcoming, but it will not be possible to reflect the latest information because the budget, of course, is set on the 2nd of March. So it's 6 months ahead of that time. And there's obviously going to be limitations on the information that's available at that time. So as long as that's understood, I think it's a good way forward.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go back because I've got no other hands to Councillor Moorcroft, who reserved his right.
No further comment, Chair. No further comment. Thank you.
Okay. So back to Gwilym.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I take on board the points raised by Julian and Councillor Kerr. As I said in my preamble, this is a really good starter for 10, and let's see how we go with this. If we've got issues after we've done the budget on the 2nd of March, it will be the job of performance management scrutiny to take that away and tweak it if necessary, subject to approval by Cabinet. Thank you.
Okay, so we've got the recommendations there. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on to item 9, which is our modern slavery statement. Members will have read the report putting forward the council's modern slavery statement 21-22. The council have a legislative requirement under the Modern Slavery Act of 2015 to have and publish a modern slavery and human trafficking statement. This sets out our policy and the steps we have taken to ensure modern slavery is not taking place in our business and our supply chains. I'm sure that the issue is largely self-explanatory to members, and I therefore move the report and the recommendation that the statement be signed and duly published.
I second the modern slavery statement.
Good. Councillor Bentinck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We welcome this report, but may I ask what tools does Shropshire Council have to monitor modern slavery in Shropshire? And secondly, what tools do officers have when the necessary inspections occur to identify modern slavery in Shropshire? Thank you.
Okay, well, I mean, this in itself is a tool, but for more detailed response, we will have to get back to you because that's not a question that I can that I can answer from the chair. But Tim Collard is making a note of that, and we will get back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, can I just come back in on that? There are a number of measures actually within the statement, Councillor Bentinck, that actually lists how we monitor those issues. There's a significant amount of work that goes on within our resources team to actually look at a whole range of things, which is listed in there. And the partnership working that we do with our other partners, including the police, right across our voluntary service sector as well, matters are constantly monitored. If anybody thinks in this council chamber that modern slavery doesn't exist in Shropshire, they are not looking hard enough. So we are constantly on the lookout for all signs. So I will certainly get you a written response, Councillor Bentinck, but I can tell you now there is a significant amount of work that goes on in this area.
Thank you, Councillor Picton.
Okay, I've got a few speakers on this now. This shouldn't really require too much debate. I mean, it is what it is. However, Viv Parry,
Just a quick question, please. Could we be given the name of the officer or officers?
you can sit down, Viv.
Sorry.
That's all right. We can't hear you if you stand up because you're
Sorry.
hovering above the microphone instead of into it.
Officers or officers. I asked this yesterday at the communities. We would like to know some of the officers. I do ring some of the officers sometimes and they say, who's giving you my telephone number? So it would be nice to know before we go into this, who's going to be doing it. And we do, and I agree with you, we do have modern slavery. You can see that quite plainly in Ludlow.
We'll make sure.
Well, I'm sure we'll pay particular attention to modern slavery in Ludlow. I think it is something that happens everywhere, and this is a tool that we are using to try and prevent it. Something that I think the council have looked at in great depth and are very good at doing. However, I've got Councillor Dean Carroll, then Councillor Heather Kidd. Councillor Carroll. As I say, there shouldn't be too much of a debate because it's the tool that we use for doing it. So, Councillor Carroll.
Thank you, Chair. Just for information for Councillor Bentinck and Councillor Parry, as I cover community safety and the community safety partnership for 2.5 years, we do have a multi-agency partnership that now sits under the umbrella of the Shropshire Safeguarding Partnership that works on modern slavery issues. And I can recall from, although it's now 12 months out of date, but I can recall from my 2.5 years, numerous occasions where people were rescued from incidents of modern slavery in Shropshire. There's always more we can do, but we do rely on largely tip-offs from members of the public and people in other services who spot things that they think are amiss in order to bring it to the attention of the authorities. But although my information may be 12 months out of date in the point of contact, I'm sure we can circulate the current point of contact officer for modern slavery referrals.
So I've got Councillors Heather Kidd and Tony Parsons, and would just before you speak, Heather, I'd like to reiterate that a lot of work's gone into this. What we are trying to do here is approve the council's policy. Heather.
It's a quick question. Actually.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I'm on the board that deals with this at the Local Government Association, so I'm actually really interested in this, and it's really important, and Leslie's completely right. It does exist all over Shropshire. My quick question is, listening to people in this chamber, the awareness of local members isn't great, and therefore 2.6 talks about promoting awareness throughout the council. I'm hoping that will also include training and briefing for elected members.
Okay. Councillor Tony Parsons. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say that we fully support this recommendation in looking to deal with the exploitation of vulnerable groups across the county, and so we offer our full support to this.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gwilym Butler.
Just for the benefit of members, my portfolio actually covers commissioning and procurement, obviously through finance. And this isn't just about what we do as a council. Wherever we actually issue contracts with third parties, we make them sign up to this. So what actually we decide in this chamber in this report, they also have to, the third parties and partners who we are procuring or spending money with also have to buy into this. So it's a really good report, and it will ripple across Shropshire and all third parties. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Williams, you seconded. Is there anything you wish to say?
No, I have nothing further to add, Chairman.
No. Well, I'm only going to add that obviously I understand the reason for members wishing to speak on this. Slavery and modern day slavery are some of the most horrendous things that one human being can do to another one. It's completely unacceptable, and I don't expect anybody's going to be voting against this. But comments on how to make it better are probably better fed in before it comes rather than afterwards. So, all right, good. All those in favour, please show. Against? Abstention, as I didn't think there would be. Thank you, members. So item 10 is an update on Cornovi Developments contracting arrangements. I now invite Councillor Rob Gittins, the portfolio holder for Digital Data and Insight and Built Housing, that's quite a mouthful, to present the report and move the report be received and agreed. Councillor Gittins.
Thank you very much, Chair. The purpose of the report is to update the Council on the procurement and contracting arrangements of Cornovi Developments Limited. Based on legal advice received prior to the incorporation of the company, the Council proceeded on the basis that CDL would not have the status of a contracting or authority and therefore not subject to the public procurement regime. In response to a query raised by CDL about its current procurement position, the Council appointed Counsel to provide an opinion on the matter. The subsequent opinion provided by Counsel has concluded that
Use the one next door if you need to. No need to apologise. It's not your fault unless you spilt drink on it.
Apologies. Furthermore, the Council provided an opinion on the management and supervisionary arrangements in place between the Council and CDL, concluding that it is more than likely that the management supervision the Council exerts over CDL meets the definition of control similar to that of which the Council exercises over its own departments. This relationship creates an exemption from the public procurement regime, sometimes referred to as the TECL exemption, and may mean that the Council is able to award contracts to a CDL without the need for a competitive tendering exercise. In reaching the view, Council took account of the Council's control of the company through the Articles of Association, the terms of the shareholder agreement to include the requirements for the Council's consent for such matters as approval of the business plan on an approval for the acquisition of land or assets at a lower financial threshold. Council a analysis of the shareholder agreement concluded that the activities of CDL are exclusively carried out in the performance of tasks entrusted to it by the Council. Furthermore, that the arrangements and structures in place means that the Council controls CDL's strategic objectives and significant decisions. The outcome of Council's opinion does not change the objectives of CDL, its current business plan, or the arrangements and structures currently in place between the Council and the company. The current governance structures in place to monitor the activities of the company remain unchanged. The shareholder agreement, unchanged, will continue to regulate the relationship between the Council and the company, and the Housing Supervisory Board's terms of reference remain unchanged. And if I could ask Council to approve the recommendations laid out in section 3 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's being seconded by Dean Carroll.
Thank you, Chairman. Formally second the report and reserve my right to speak.
Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Chairman. An interesting recommendation. And I note at 5.2 in the financial implications, the words that are there. I well remember in the not too distant past asking questions why solar panels were not being fitted on some of the roofs on some of the properties that were being erected by our company, and I was told it couldn't be afforded because of the return that had to be paid to Shropshire Council on the loan that they had. If that's the case, and I note that we on this section in 5.2 it still states at commercial rates. Does this mean that any future loans and renegotiated loans that the council makes to this company will be at the rate that we charge for internal ones and not like 7.5%, which is what we charged on some of the earlier loans. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr.
Yes, thank you. It seems that some lawyers have done very well out of coronavirus, hasn't it? Coronavirus, can't even say it. Oh, you see, it's complicated. Coronavirus. Yeah, I don't even know what Canovi means. There we are. Anyway, you can see some legal people have done well. I can't even pronounce it. It's all very complicated and you've got to get lots of advice on it. The other option open to the council at the start of all of this would have been just to build houses within the housing revenue account as a landlord. Have our councils across the country of all political persuasions have simply done that. The powers are already there. They've never taken away. The costs of borrowing when compared to the rent you then get back from offers a significant return to the housing revenue account. We'll be able to build high energy efficiency properties, be able to directly intervene to meet housing need. Instead of this ridiculously complicated, legally challengeable by the looks of it, and where we have to keep running for further advice because of the complexities of the arrangements we've created.
Thank you. Councillor Butler.
In my role as portfolio holder for finance and corporate resources, I just wanted to comment on Councillor Evans' comments about the interest rate, and just to advise that there are certain SIPFA regulations that we have to use when actually lending public money to third parties, and so all regulations will be adhered to. There's no reason at all that can't be taken to performance scrutiny in the future should he wish to do so. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm going to go back to Councillor Dean Carroll, as nobody else has indicated, who reserved his right. Councillor Carroll.
Nothing to add, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Gittins.
Yes, thank you. Just in regards to what Roger was saying, Cornovia developments are constantly looking to deliver low-cost affordable housing, and all completed developments are at grade A or better. In terms of loan rate, the council has a duty of best value to achieve in all of its commercial arrangements, and these are still competitive in the market. And I will point out also 5.2, CDL's funding arrangements remain unchanged, so there aren't any differences there. In regards to Councillor Kerr's comments, at the end of the day, the housing revenue account doesn't have a bottomless pit of money, so we do have to remain competitive on those facts and figures. Thank you.
Okay, there we have it. Proposed and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? Crikey. Unanimous again. Thank you. We'll move on to item 11, which is the Whitchurch Swimming and Fitness Centre. I now invite Councillor Cecilia Motley, the portfolio holder for Communities, Culture, Leisure and Tourism and Transport, to present the report and move the report be received and agreed. Councillor Motley.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm very pleased to be able to bring this report to Council. We are making progress bit by bit on this. Cabinet on the 27th of April 2022 agreed that the plans for the Whitchurch Swimming and Fitness Centre should go out for public consultation. This has been done, it's been completed and approved again by Cabinet on the 7th of September. And so now the report is coming to Council and recommending that the business case for the rebuilding of the Whitchurch Swimming and Fitness Centre be approved and added to the capital strategy. Interestingly, the results of the consultation reported overwhelming support for the proposed swimming and fitness centre. 89% of respondents said they were happy with the location in the town of the existing site. 73% were satisfied with the proposed facility mix on the site. Concern was raised about one particular issue to do with the potential loss of water vole habitat. Hopefully we can deal with that as work on this progresses. Just for a little bit more information on that, a wide range of consultation and engagement was undertaken, which included emails and letters, surveys, feedback from 7 engagement workshops and meetings, including Whitchurch Town Council and local businesses, schools, local sports and leisure groups. So the Whitchurch as a town has had a lot of opportunity to comment on this. One of the things that has been picked up is the fact that a lot of people visiting the old site would go by car. So we're very conscious of the need here to increase the potential for walking and cycling for the new facility. The original estimate in the capital programme was 12.5 million funded through the Public Works Lending Board. This is being increased to 13.1 million to take into account likely inflationary and other cost pressures. So as a result, we're keen to start work on this as soon as possible, not only because the people of Whitchurch are putting us under a lot of pressure to do so, but also because there's a danger of spiralling cost pressures. And if we need to exceed the capital budget, we'll need to bring this back to Council for consideration. And assuming that the next stages of development go smoothly, building of the new centre should start in 2024 with completion in 2025. And I would just like to advise Council about some of the provisions that are being made for this. The original pool was built in 1972, and it had rarely reached the end of its natural life. There was no way that we could keep it going. Therefore, the new pool is now being made as fit for purpose in a modern era as we can possibly make it. A feasibility study has been done, and the following facility mix is proposed. A 25-metre 6-lane pool with movable floor to half the pool, a 35-station fitness suite, large multi-purpose studio divisible into 2 studio areas for dance, fitness and youth sessions. We're very keen on that in particular. Reception, obviously cafe, and outdoor activity area for informal sport. So it will be a very good facility for Whitchurch. Also, I think members will be pleased to hear that it is intended that the building will achieve a BREEAM Excellent rating and a DEC A rating, aiming for as low a carbon footprint as we can possibly make. Building to passive house principles to reduce energy revenue costs, the opportunity for renewable energy generation through air or groundwater source heat pumps, and on-site renewables such as PV cells, as well as using landscaping to encourage carbon capture through tree planting and other measures. The results of the public consultation are included with these papers, and I would ask Council to agree to move this exciting project onto its next stage as per the recommendations in item 3. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you. I believe that's being seconded by Councillor Peggy Mullock. Is that correct?
It is. I'd like to formally second the report and reserve my right.
Okay, Councillor Pam Mosley.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I welcome the investment in swimming facilities in the county, which have been proposed for Whitchurch, and from what Councillor Buckley has how she's described it, sound to be an excellent facility, and far better than what's been gone before, and particularly in environmental terms. The benefits of swimming as set out in the report are recognised. Almost all demographic groups can benefit from regular swimming, be it competitively or for leisure purposes. It keeps people well, active, and has a role in reducing obesity, and therefore can reduce expenditure on health and care services in the long term. In Shrewsbury, however, the main pool, the Quarry Pool, within the Quarry Swimming and Fitness Centre, has been closed since mid-July due to problems with the roof above it. Because of this, which unfortunately coincided with the start of the school holidays, the swimming usage of the pools has had to be concentrated on the centre's 3 other pools. 2 of these are small and used for teaching and general swimming, and the other is the Priory Pool, which is larger, and this has been used to provide sessions lost from the Quarry Pool, lane swimming, leisure swimming, some lessons, and the swimming club. This pool is 25 metres in length, as against the Quarry Pool 33 metres, and it is also narrower. As such, the Quarry Pool being unavailable has had a significant impact on many local swimmers within the town and beyond, and that includes myself. Could the portfolio holder please provide an update on the works which have been identified needing to be carried out, and when it might be possible to see the main pool at the Quarry Centre reopened.
Thank you. I understand the concerns about the pool in Shrewsbury, and I'm sure the portfolio holder will email that and probably not use this opportunity necessarily to update us on where we are with Shrewsbury. That's obviously up to the portfolio holder when they come back. But we are talking about the Whitchurch swimming pool, and but I do understand why you're concerned. But if that's perhaps not repeated by the other speakers, Councillor Wagner.
I would like to thank the officers and the portfolio holder for putting this report together. I think it's obviously a really positive step, and I'm sure there won't be much disagreement with it. The only query I had is, presumably there will be some operational saving by not having to heat the pool, not having to staff it for a 5-year period. Has it been considered that some of that could go into ensuring that people in Whitchurch are able to get to other pools? So I think there's Market Drayton and Wem, especially younger people who will have a 5-year gap in being able to learn to swim in the town they're from.
Thank you. Councillor Claire Wild, then Councillor Nat Green.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to say that I've been on the council quite a while, and nothing's been mentioned really about all the effort the local members, Peggy and Gerald and Tom, have put in over the years, and also the previous portfolio holder. And I think we need to recognise all the hard work that they have done on this project. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Duly noted. Councillor Nat Green.
Thank you, Chair. Just a point of clarity, really. I note at point 5.5 that the construction cost inflation has been increased to 20%. Is that the standard figure that Shropshire Council is using across all of its construction projects? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ed Towers.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me? That's right. I'm just speaking, listening to this. I welcome this report for Whitchurch. Obviously, it's next door to our division for Councillor Brunel and myself. It's obviously very necessary. But we in Wem have our own pool, and we've been taking up some of the slack of the Whitchurch pool during this period. In the years before that, we came to Shropshire Council. We have no funding for our pool now from Shropshire Council, and we've sought advice, and we've had some, but we haven't had funding as such in our own area, and we could do with that. Our pool is actually slightly older than the one at Whitchurch, and we too could do with provision and consideration in the town. The funding, that this is a lot of money, 13.1 million, and we obviously, when you allocate funding to such a big project here, Shrewsbury and Wem and other places obviously have less likelihood of getting that. So I'd like it to bear in mind that there are other pools in the area, and they are in need of support too, and perhaps some more consideration should be given to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dean Carroll. Councillor Motley, would you mind just popping your microphone off? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'd echo everything that Councillor Wild said about the local members and current and former portfolio holder. But the reason that I'm speaking is in response to the question that Councillor Green posed about the whether we apply a 20% as standard inflationary calculation into capital projects. Well, the answer to that is you can't put a standard calculation into a portfolio of capital projects that involve a hugely different range of construction methods and materials and base budgets that were originally set at various points previously. So we can't apply a standard 20% inflationary uplift to all construction costs, because not all construction projects are the same and will use the same amount of resources or the same type of methods.
Thank you. Councillor Tom Biggins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a local member, I would like to express my sincere thanks to the two portfolio holders that have been involved in this project, formerly Leslie Picton and now Cecilia Motley, for their unstinting work in bringing this project to fruition. But importantly, I'd like to bring with me today the thanks and appreciation of local people, not just residents of Whitchurch, but people really living in a
Go. I've seen the press, I've seen the comments, I've seen local comments about why it was closed and the problems that were there. If that was commissioned then, it was obviously, and some people in this council knew that a replacement was needed. As to why would you do a topographical study? November 2019. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, I think we've had a little thing called COVID since then. I'm sure that probably played a part where nobody could move anywhere for about a year. Councillor Picton.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Councillor Evans, just to tell you exactly why we did a topographical survey, it was not because a new pool was needed. We were actually looking at the ground conditions as to why there was a leak in the current pool. And that's what we were investigating. In all honesty, it's much cheaper in some ways to refurbish a pool, and it's better for our carbon credentials. But this pool is not suitable any longer. We have got to build a new pool. I'm going to take a bit of an issue with Councillor Towers as well, because I think what we all need to realise in this chamber is that other councils across this country are closing swimming pools left, right and centre. We are doing our very best, as Cecilia is struggling with all the time, to maintain the current pool stock that we have. That was the focus of the review, the Leisure Services Review, and out of that review came the understanding that Whitchurch needed, and as Councillor Biggins has quite eloquently put, it's not just Whitchurch, it's the surrounding areas as well. It needed a new pool. This council and this cabinet have put together a plan to build a new pool. COVID did get in the way. There is absolutely no doubt about that. But as a council and as a cabinet, we are absolutely adamant that we start this pool as soon as possible. And believe you me, Councillor Evans, if we can get that pool open before 2025, we absolutely will. Thank you.
Thank you. Roger, if you'd like to switch your microphone off, that would be just might hinder others. Okay, we've had a swimming debate on that. Sorry. So I'm going to go back, first of all, to Councillor Peggy Mullock.
Yeah, I would just like to make a comment, please. I would like to take this chance to correct a myth that an issue used as a campaign focus in the recent election brought about this item agenda result today. Yes, we did know about it in 2017. The leisure portfolio holder was already raising concerns, and then COVID hit us. That's, Roger, why things stopped. But the major inspection took place. The pool had to go, as Centre North East had to go on the adjacent site, because that was in a poor condition. And that gave Cecilia and her team the chance to produce a better use of the area for the long-term health of the residents. And I'd like to put on record the thanks from the Whitchurch residents, Gerald, Tom and myself, to our leader, Leslie, to Cecilia and all the team that have worked so hard to bring this project home. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Councillor Cecilia Motley.
Thank you very much to members, and thank you, Peggy, in particular. Just in winding this up, I would just like to say that it's absolutely right what Leslie was saying. This pool had been identified as having a problem. With the greatest respect to WEM, it doesn't seem to have anything like the same problems that poor old Whitchurch had. Whitchurch is a growing town. I think we need to remember that. There are a lot of people who are moving into the area of Whitchurch, and as Tom Biggins has pointed out, there are a lot of people from the hinterlands around Whitchurch who used to come to the old facility, who doubtless will come to the new one as well. If we're going to replace a swimming pool, we're very conscious of the fact that it is a very big job to do this. We do not do it lightly. We do it because we know that Whitchurch really needs that pool. It needs it for its own families, and it needs it for families in the surrounding areas. And that's why we're determined to continue with this. Just to pick out a few points from various people. Pam, I don't really want to get into the Shrewsbury quarry situation. It's not really fair when we're trying to discuss Whitchurch that other issues get brought in. We're working hard on the quarry. We're working to bring it back into action. And I'm not going to give you a set date for that because we don't have one just yet. Councillor Wagner, operational savings, not much is in the way of savings because income has obviously been lost. A lot of income has been lost due to the closure. So that probably more than balances out any operational savings. When we come to being in a position to open up Whitchurch, when we know what the completion date is going to be, we will be looking at everything around that, including encouraging people to get there by means other than the car. Ed, I appreciate your situation in Wem, but as a matter of fact, your pool is fine. It's still working. The problem with Whitchurch is that it had a big problem, and we had no other choice than to replace it. Tom, thank you very much for your historical references. I think that was very, very helpful to us. And I would just like to wind this up by saying this, hopefully, with the new Whitchurch Swimming and Fitness Centre is going to be state of the art in terms of being able to pay for itself, we hope. We all know that swimming pools are extremely expensive to run, but we are doing everything we can to make sure that it is done in an environmentally friendly fashion as we possibly can. And hopefully it will be the model for any further replacements. And really, I think that's all I need to say, but just to ask members, please, to support this whole endeavour, because it's very important to the north of the county. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There we go. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Abstentions? Unanimous again. Good. So we'll move on to item 12 then, the establishment of the Climate Change and Carbon Reduction Stakeholder Board. We're going to invite Councillor Ian Nellins, the portfolio holder for climate change, natural assets and the green economy, to present the report. Move the report be received and agreed. Councillor Nellins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The establishment of the Climate Change and Carbon Reduction Advisory Board is to basically act as a critical friend and discuss, review and make recommendations to improve the Council's carbon performance. The board has representation from all political groups on the Council, as well as Council officers, and representation from community groups and the Chamber of Commerce. The board is advisory only and will not make formal decisions. The first meeting was held on the 30th of August, and I thank all the representatives for their attendance and their positive contribution. I'd particularly like to thank Councillor Julian Dean for his influence in this concept. The advisory board is also act as a form of communication, which will complement the carbon report, that's annual carbon report, and also the dashboard that is regularly updated, and will help communicate that through members. While I have the floor, I'd also like to remind members that this Sunday is the Shropshire Goes Green Festival at Shrewsbury Town Football Club between 10 and 1500 hours, where lots of the projects and advice on green renewable energy stuff will be available to our residents. On this, I'd just like to recommend that the Council approves this as at item 3 on the terms of reference. Thank you.
Thanks. I believe that's being seconded by Councillor Hilary Luff. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I second
Well, there you
it.
are. I was looking for you over there. All right.
And reserve my rights. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Tony Parsons, then Councillor Julian Dean.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we support this proposal and really welcome its introduction. We note in section 2.3 that the chairman of or the portfolio holder will be able to invite other organisations to take part in these discussions, and we hope that that's not drawn too narrowly. You know, we would like to see people like Friends of the Earth, even the Environment Agency, involved in this type of discussion. So we're just we do welcome it, but we hope that it will not just be the groups that are mentioned in the report, and that you will look to other groups that can also contribute. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Julian Dean.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment, Councillor Nellins. The second initiative that's come to council today from the Green Group. I whilst welcoming this, I just wanted to sort of point out a few things to members. First of all, when we had our first annual report on our climate action so far, the underlying trajectory was not a good one. The reason we had a reduction in emissions was simply because we changed our electricity provider. So we still have a long way to go. When looking at the membership of this board, I was quite concerned to make sure that we had representation, yes, from outside the council, but also from across different directorates, because I think that part of the role of this board will be to enable the climate team to make sure that the rest of the council is on board. And I think that's an important part of the, hopefully, of what this board could do. But I absolutely agree with Councillor Parsons that to combine this with proper community representation is really important. And I also welcome the fact that we have, hopefully some active business representation, because we have to be leaders in driving carbon reductions across the county, and that means we also have to be influencing others in the community. And so I hope that the board, as it develops, is part of that leverage to get others in the area and in the community to also do their part. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor David Evans.
We're on. I welcome this being set up for Shropshire. Hilary Luff and I put on a Next Generation Fair in Craven Arms this May, very well attended, and the reason why we called it Next Generation Fair was to advise the younger people, the next generation coming through, what is available out there and how to save carbon reduction. So we're going to do it again next year, and we hope it'll be a success like this year. But we need to get to those younger people and advise them what is out there for carbon reduction. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got no other hands, so I'm going to go back to Councillor Hilary Luff, who reserved her right as seconder. Councillor Luff, anything you wish to say?
No, I'd just like to see it moved, please.
Okay, so I'll go back to the original proposer, Councillor Nellins, the portfolio holder.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you to members for those contributions. Reference the external groups. There's no monopoly on good ideas, and we will be inviting various groups on various topics at different meetings. So that does remain open. We obviously have to remind, we don't want this thing to grow bigger than Ben-Hur, but at the same time, we want to have people who can contribute in a positive way and critical ways. As we said, it's a critical friend we're looking for in order to get the best possible outcome for the council. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favour, please show. Against? Abstentions? Unanimous again. Thank you, members. We will move on to item 13, which is the West Mercia Youth Justice Plan for 2022 to 2023. So I'd like to invite Kirsty Hurst-Knight, the Portfolio of Children Education, to present the report. Move that the report be received and agreed. Kirsty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The annual Youth Justice Plan sets out on how the service is structured and resourced and outlines the 22-23 Improvement Action Plan. The action plan was released in May this year, and the service will address the priorities agreed by the Management Board. The Youth Justice Plan is prepared on an annual basis on behalf of Herefordshire, Shropshire, Telford and Wrekin and Worcestershire councils, and the basic plan preparation is undertaken by the West Mercia Youth Justice Service Management Board according to the deadlines and content requirements set by the Youth Justice Board for England and Wales. Just to put that in some context, this year was slightly different. Instead of producing our own report, we had a template and some guidelines. So it was a new way of reporting. And I want to thank everybody involved in producing that with the timelines, especially Councillor Mullock, who came along with me to all the briefings, the workshop, and eventually producing this report. So thank you, Peggy. I think one thing mainly, I'm not going to go into the report too much detail. I know you've all had it and read it. I'm really pleased to note that against national performance data, Shropshire is good, and we are well below the national average. 91% are in education, 78 in full-time, and we know there's some work there around temporary or reduced timetables. Also want to thank through the work, through the improvement plan, the work stream leads and the reporting that is coming to us, so we feel included in the way that this is being shaped and going forward for our young people across the county. Just to put it into some local context, out of 115,388 young people, we are really in a diverse and a rural location, and a lot of work with the team and the officers to look at that cohort of offending, but also the pre-offending, and that comes to in line with what our detached youth and other youth groups and educational providers are doing to really look at that consequential thinking and avoid criminalisation of our young people. So I really want to thank that this is a massive, massive effort. And the one thing that came out through the workshop and briefing, wasn't it, Councillor Mullock, was Shropshire Council's visionary work. And that's really, something I want to express here, that we are looking at the trauma-informed approach. We are looking at adverse childhood experiences. And I want to thank all councillors here that are coming on board with this and supporting me in how we are looking at this. And thank you for signing up to your training. So, in context, I think the most important thing to look at is item 7, the progression of the previous plan. We know we're not there yet. We know we can be better, but we are certainly going in the right direction. So, yeah, thank you. And I am happy to move the recommendation to accept this report, Appendix A. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe that's being seconded by Councillor Peggy Mullock. Is that correct?
It is. I'd like to formally second and reserve my right.
Okay. Councillor Nick Barsley.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We can never be complacent about youth offending, and this report doesn't, I think, in any way encourage complacency. Children who get involved in the system, sadly, sometimes go on to end up in custody. So this is always a salutary reminder, I think, that there's more to do. Having said that, I hope members, if they haven't read the whole report all the way through, will have looked at the last few paragraphs of the short report, which goes with the Youth Justice Plan itself. And I'd like the portfolio holder to comment, if she would, that despite the really enormous difficulties over the last 2 years in maintaining a service, and the fact that, of course, Shropshire is always going to be a target for the gangs who operate through county lines and the like, that by and large, our rates of, as measured in those last few paragraphs, 7.3, 7.4, 5, and 6, are at least as low as national rates, and in some instances, significantly lower. First-time entrance rates were lower than both the West Mercia rate and the England rate, quite significantly lower. The use of custody for young people is about on the average. And then I think it's particularly significant to see that reoffending is significantly lower in Shropshire than the England performance. So I'd like, if the portfolio has the opportunity, just for her to comment on that and to reflect on the fact that despite all the difficulties, Shropshire is not performing badly. And as I said at the outset, this doesn't mean we should be in any way complacent, but nonetheless, I think it's an encouraging aspect to this plan. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Duncan Kerr.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Nick has said. That's been used before, hasn't it? I just think it's important to recognise that to deal with youth offending requires a partnership approach between many agencies, and I think this report evidences that partnership's in a good place. There are challenges, there are more work to do. The figure that stuck out to me, though, is on page 16, where it says that looked after children accounts for 23% of children receiving a substantive outcome, caution or conviction. 23% are children who are looked after. And I think this authority's had about a 50% increase in children who are looked after over the last 2 years. And so you can work out the consequences that might flow from that. So I think one of the lessons I learned from this is we need to redouble our efforts to prevent children coming into the care system, support families. And I know that work is well known to the portfolio holder, and I know she's actively engaged in that work, but I just think it's worth bearing in mind some of the consequences. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm going to go back to the seconder, Councillor Peggy Mullock, because nobody else is on my list. So, Councillor Mullock.
I think Nick said everything I was going to say, so I'm not going to repeat myself.
He's only sat next to you. You should have elbowed him. All right, Councillor Kirsty.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments, Nick. Yeah, I think, to echo what you've said, Nick and Duncan, this really has been a partnership working in process. As I say, we're not there yet, but we're getting there. I really feel like with having the work through, I sit on the child exploitation panel, I looked after children, the corporate parents, some of you are here on the corporate parenting steering board, with this trauma-informed approach, we are really trying to collectively change these outcomes for our young people. And it's not going to happen overnight, but yeah, just to reiterate, all the partnership working is really now coming together. So, on to bigger and better things, we hope, and good outcomes for our young people in Shropshire. Thank you.
Okay, been proposed and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you, members. We'll move on to item 14, which is the interim review of polling districts, polling places and polling stations. I move that this report and the recommendations of the returning officer be received and agreed.
I'm pleased to second that proposal.
Can't see any hands. Good. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you. Move on to item 14, which is the appointment of statutory scrutiny officer. The council is required under the Local Government Act 2000 to designate one of its officers to discharge the functions of statutory scrutiny officer, and that officer may not be the head of the authority's paid service, the authority's monitoring officer, or the authority's chief finance officer. Council is asked to agree that Tom Dodds, the council scrutiny manager, is appointed as the statutory scrutiny officer with immediate effect. And I'm going to move the recommendations be received and agreed.
And I'm going to second them.
Okay, no hands. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? Okay, item 16 is appointment to committees. I ask the council to confirm the following appointments. I'm not going to read them out. They're there, or you will have seen them. I think there is one additional appointment which is not on the agenda, which is to Communities and Overview Committee, that of Councillor Roy Oldcroft to be appointed as a substitute member of the Communities Overview Committee. So with those that were there and that one attached, which wasn't on your agendas, everybody happy with that? We don't need to vote on that, but I'm sure everybody's happy with that because nobody's shouted out at me or said something other. I think, Brian, you were going to second that as well anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, move on to item 17 then, which is notices of motion. There's only been one which has been received in accordance with Procedure Rule 16, and it has been received from Councillor Rosemary Dartwell and is supported by Councillor Kate Halliday and members of the Labour group. Rosemary.
Thank you, Chair. There is an amendment in. Do we look at that first or do I speak first?
Well, are you happy with the amendment or?
I am, yes.
Oh, okay, in which case we'll
On
move
we
to
go.
the amendment.
Okay.
And you could speak to it. You've accepted it. Let me get Councillor Carroll just to say what the amendment is, because not all members will have seen the amendment. So,
thank you, Chair. I did submit, apologies, I did submit it rather late. We were trying to iron out the last little wording on it, but we did submit it this morning and circulate to members via email. I can read out the changes that are entirely to the resolutions. The first resolution, we have removed the establish and maintain a list of small lots of public land suitable for cultivation. We've replaced that with this council would expand the group that considers community asset transfer requests to receive expressions of interest from town and parish councils on behalf of their residents and or local community groups who have identified small parcels of land suitable for food cultivation. We've removed resolution 2. We've replaced resolution 3 with, if identified land is deemed to be appropriate and is supported by local people within the parish town council area for the purpose of food production, a licence to operate on the land covering insurance, risk, ground investigation surveys, tree impact assessments, etc., will be negotiated on a case-by-case basis with the town or parish council. No change to resolution 4. And resolution 5, we have deleted everything after the word website, so it now reads that the council will promote the initiative via the council's website. Those are the changes.
okay. And though that proposed amendment is seconded by, thank you, Cecilia. Now, Rosemary, do you have anything you wish to say to the amendment?
Yeah, just one question, please. If I can ask Councillor Carroll to clarify. The first comment was about transfer of assets, and I just wanted to check that doesn't involve selling the land or anything like that, anything permanent or financial.
Councillor Carroll?
Thank you, Councillor Dartnott. No, the referral to transfer of assets is the body that would consider the expressions of interest. It's a working group of officers that considers currently requests for community asset transfers, and we would expand the remit of that group to consider expressions of interest for the use of land for the purposes of food production by the community, but it would not involve any transfer of ownership of the land.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, it seems a slightly heavy-handed way of dealing with what could be a relatively small proposals to take small areas of land and grow vegetables on them. So the question of identified land for the purpose of food production, the license to operate, covering ground investigations, tree impact assessment, etc., sounds very expensive to me. So my question to the portfolio holder is, can we replace the will with a may? Because it does depend on the circumstances. And if the piece of land in question is ridiculously small, this seems woefully excessive, and the will requires it to be done. The may would enable it to be done if it's deemed to be necessary.
Councillor Carroll, technically that's an amendment to the amendment, but it's a 3-letter word, so.
The will is, well, I believe that it's covered, that your intentions are covered by later on in the sentence by the case-by-case basis. If we're talking about a 2 metre square patch of ground, I think that on a case-by-case basis, that wouldn't justify the full round of investigations that perhaps a half-acre plot of land would. So I'm content that it's covered by the on a case-by-case basis wording.
Okay, thank you. Right, I am going to come back to Rosemary, and thank you for bringing this forward, Rosemary. Is there anything else you want to say before we move to voting on it?
On the amendment or on the motion?
Yes. Well, the amendment
Yes.
in effect has become the substantive, and because you've agreed to take the amendment, but as you brought the original one, I'm asking you if there's anything. I'm giving you a second bite of the cherry if you wish one. And then I'll bring in Councillor Vasmer, whose hand's been going up and down like a yo-yo.
Okay, it seems back to front to be reading my, motion at this point. I'm imagining everyone's fully familiar with it, so it seems a bit pointless, doesn't it? So
All
I'm
right.
quite happy where we are.
Thank you. Councillor Vasmer.
Thank you. This is an excellent motion, which I very much welcome. And I would just like to say, for benefits of people, in terms of the community activity in agendas, the food it will produce, and the making use of land which is currently neglected. So this is a really excellent motion, and I would like to refer people to the photos in the motion. They are from Underdale. And it's for motion, photos of a street allotment project, which has been very, very well supported. It's done significant work in improving patches of land, mainly around near a couple of pubs in my particular division. And this Sunday, if you're all going to the Green Festival, I assume you can pop along to Monkmoor Road, to the Abbey Pub, where there will be a volunteers session at 9 o'clock, starting at 9 o'clock, and you'll be able to see the benefits of this sort of work actually happening. So look forward to seeing you all on Sunday at 9 o'clock at the Abbey Pub on Monkmoor Road. Thank you.
And I'm sure Councillor Vasmer will there be to buy you all a drink if you turn up. I think we're all in support of this. I do have Councillor Bentinck who has put his hand up, but if you're just going to say that you support it, that please don't, because you get to do that when you vote. But Councillor Bentinck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I of course do support this, and I wonder if the council will consider working with its third-party housing association partners to put in a scheme for those residents who struggle to use their gardens, and consider opening this up for a growth of food for the local community. I'm sure this will be relevant all around Shropshire. And the second thing is that there is a considerable shortage of available allotments throughout Shropshire. And in Shrewsbury, it's several hundred people on the waiting list. And so I wonder whether the council would consider looking at land for increased numbers of allotments. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sure that's been duly noted. I'm going to move to the vote now, if that's all right with everybody. I think we're all pretty well much talking around supporting this and the amendment to this. So first of all, the amendment's been proposed and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? Do you want me to take a vote on it now, being the substantive? Tim says that we don't need to. So thank you, members. We will move on to item 18, which is questions from members. Any voices? I'm looking round. First of all, Councillor Ruth Houghton, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I do. Thank you for the comprehensive response on the Clun River mitigation challenges. I'd like to know a timescale for that, really, and specifically in the final paragraph of the response, the reasons given for the disposal of these homes is that they are in a rural location with poor heating systems and build type. This applies to many properties across the whole county of that type. So does that mean that as these properties become vacant and need this work, that they will all be disposed of? I certainly hope not. Thank you.
Thank you. Portfolio holder, do you have a response now, or do you need to?
Just very quickly, just to say, just in regards to the timescales, I'll have a chat with officers and I'll get a response to you for that. Just quickly overall, in general, it's a great question, Councillor Houghton, that you asked. It's an issue not just affecting the southwest, but actually the whole county, and we are exploring solutions, and we'll update the council shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kevin Pardy, do you have a supplementary question?
One. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the portfolio holder for the reply, although I do believe there's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on here. So the last paragraph of the portfolio's reply infers that a change to a cabinet agreed recommendation can be made at any time. Does the portfolio holder perceive such changes as democratic?
Portfolio holder? I don't know which one it is, so Cecilia. Just one. Is it democratic or not?
I think that's a rather interesting question. But it's certainly, well, I don't see why it isn't democratic. I really don't. I will get advice for you if you like, Councillor Pardy. I think you're slightly labouring this, though, I must say. But I will certainly get advice on this.
Well, he is from the Labour group. Anyway, good. Councillor Heather Kidd.
I do have a supplementary.
I thought you might.
I'm really grateful to Cecilia for taking this up because it's been an ongoing problem, but actually is a huge cross-border issue now that people really do need to use their bus passes. It is, I wanted actually to have an exchange with Powys so that those in Wales, because my border for my division goes in and out all over the place. So there are people getting on with Welsh bus passes onto English buses and this, that and the other all over the place, and they have to pay. Whereas actually, if they walk 100 yards down the road, they don't. So it's for both the Welsh to be able to use their bus passes this side and ours to do it the other side. My supplementary around this is I see that you've neatly sidestepped the MPs on this, the MPs for the border, but I'm really grateful that our officers are going to take this up. Could I possibly have a timeline for the reporting back to me, please? Because it's something that's actually very real now.
Okay. Maybe some consideration if it's going to be timeline, but Cecilia?
Thanks. Heather, I can't give you a timeline because it just depends on how much haggling we have to do. Hopefully we won't have to haggle too much, and hopefully we can come to a sensible solution to this. But I do absolutely get your point. I absolutely see where you're coming from, and it would make life an awful lot easier all round. I think the problem that we've got is it's all very well nipping over the border into Wales. It's rather different if you then have to travel, to Aberystwyth, as it were. So I think it's that kind of negotiation that needs to be sorted out, and we'll certainly get onto that.
I have context.
Thank you.
Good.
Just turn your mic off, Heather, please. Councillor Morris, do you have a supplement?
Yes, I have a further question. Thanks, Chair. Could Councillor Carroll please quantify the expected annual benefit of the North West Relief Road being built, please?
Thank you for the supplementary question. From memory, the outline business case projected an economic benefit to the county of approximately £266 million. That was when the outline business case was drawn up in 2017. Of course, updated figures will be able to be submitted when we are able to submit the full business case post the receipt, hopefully, of planning permission. It did score extremely highly on the Department for Transport's cost to benefit ratio at the time of 2017. And we would anticipate that as costs arise due to inflation, that similarly we would expect to see the level of economic benefit rise too due to inflation. But until we're able to do a further analysis alongside the full business case, I can't give an exact figure on that.
Okay. That finishes members' questions. We'll move on to item. Oh, no, it doesn't. Sorry, no. I'm quite right. I've just written your name down there, Rosemary. Sorry about that. I've turned my page over. Getting ahead of myself. Councillor Rosemary Dartlock, do you have a supplementary question?
I do. You'll be surprised to hear. Thanks to Councillor Carroll for his reply to my question. He says in the last paragraph, I do not agree with the statements made in the question following the phrase sound arguments. The administration's position on the North West Relief Road has not changed. So my question is, one of the sound arguments against the road discussed widely is the financial one. The council faces difficult times financially in revenue and capital terms. Projects such as the rebuilding of the Quarry swimming pool in Shrewsbury are on hold because of inflation and in the construction field, or in Councillor Motley's words earlier, spiralling costs, as well as rising interest rates, both of which will impact on this project. Is it right that the administration will continue to support this project no matter what, no matter how high the costs become and how small a proportion the 54.4 million contribution from the DFT eventually becomes, leaving hard-pressed Shropshire folk to pick up the escalating bill?
Thank you.
Thank you. It's an interesting question. I'm not sure quite what the question was in there, but I'll speak to I'll respond to what was said. In terms of the cost, as council know, the outline business case costs were funded without borrowing and without calling upon other parts of the capital programme through the external funding received from the Department for Transport, external funding received for the Oxon Link Road section through the Marches Local Enterprise Partnership, through dedicated Section 106 and SIL contributions to various parts of the scheme. And we had also indicatively indicated a considerable time ago that the cost gap we would look to fill by the disposal of land that was within the SU West, the Sustainable Urban Extension West, which would be opened up by the delivery of the North West Relief Road. Now, we don't know what we don't know until we're able to do a full review in line with the full business case in terms of what final costs are likely to be. We had not ruled out going back to Department for Transport, as other projects are shelved around the country and money returned to government. We haven't ruled out going back to Department for Transport and asking for further central government funding to support delivery of the road. We've also made a multi-million-pound saving by redesigning the road, and we would anticipate an increase in the receipt from the sale of the land released by the construction of the road in Sustainable Urban Extension West. It's impossible at this stage to quantify and say where that balance will rest and where that balance will sit. And we will not be able to make that judgment until we have the figures for the full business case, which will not be prepared until and unless we have planning permission received for the road. So I don't think I can add any more to what we already know in answer to what I'm not sure what the question was, to be honest, but I'm not sure I can add any more to what we already know about the funding situation of the North West Relief Road.
A meandering question and a meandering answer. We got somewhere in the end. Okay. Item 19 is the exclusion of the public and press. I move that in accordance with the provisions of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act of 1972, paragraph 10.43 of the Council's access to information procedure rules, the public and press be excluded for the consideration of the remaining business. Seconded.
I shall second that.
Okay. Councillor Bentinck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I please request, that is, move an amendment to delete an item from the exempt recommendations.
Councillor Bentinck, can we actually, we've not started the exempt agenda yet.
I understand,
You're
Mr.
about,
Chairman.
you're about two jumps in front of yourself.
I
We've got to
understand,
include
Chairman.
the public and press first, so please wait.
Thank you.
And then we've got to do the minutes, and then you'll get your moment in the light. Okay, so we will now wait until I've been told by officers that the live stream has finished. I don't think there are any